1.5 million Canadians and contribute an estimated $148 billion to our economy. When women succeed, Canada succeeds.
Hear, hear.
This initiative is an extraordinary opportunity for accomplished Canadians to share their experience and expertise to join the movement for increasing women's economic prosperity in Canada. I join the Minister in issuing a challenge to Canadian leaders in all fields, women and men, to be her champion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The
Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. In April, I visited Gerald Godin's CEGEP, and I was surprised to meet so many students interested in political issues like Bill C-51 or the East-West pipeline.
Naboth College. The leader of the official opposition was visiting the college as he accepted the invitation from the student union. Thank you to SUJAC for organizing this political discussion and for facilitating this meeting between students and politicians. This visit reminded me that, contrary to what we often hear, youth are not only interested about politics and social issues, but they are also engaged and want to take concrete actions to incite change.
When Conservative ministers claim that they know what's good for young people when they cut future programs for pensions, or when they say that problems that they are closing their eyes to now will be dealt with by future generations, well, I turn towards the students of Gerald Godin and John Abbott, and I hope that things change in this Parliament. The NDP is right to elect young people and to entrust to them important dossiers and important responsibilities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Prince Edward Hastings.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what a family. Today I wish to pay tribute to the Crawfords, a prolific Canadian hockey family from my riding of Prince Edward Hastings. Floyd Crawford is one of Belleville's most legendary hockey heroes. He was part of the Belleville-McFarland team that won gold while representing Canada at the World Hockey Championships in 1959. Three of their children, Bobby, Mark, and Lou, went on to play in the National Hockey League. The patriarch Floyd is an Allen Cup and world champion. Mark Crawford, after an NHL career as a player, became a coach and led the Colorado Avalanche to a Stanley Cup win in 1996. Bobby had a playing career with the Hartford Whalers, and Lou, after a brief NHL career, also became a coach and later stood behind the bench for the Belleville Bulls. I'm told the Crawford name is on more hockey championship trophies than any other name. Altogether, this family of 9 successful competitive children has left an incredible stamp, not only on the hockey world in Belleville, but as tremendous ambassadors for Canada. Mr. Speaker, their family, their community, and their country. Floyd, Pauline, and the entire Crawford family, thank you.
The Honourable Member for Trinity Spadina.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to remember Jonathan Crombie, known to many as the actor who played Gilbert Blythe on the acclaimed TV series Anne of Green Gables. Jonathan Crombie also performed at the Stratford Festival and on Broadway. Jonathan Crombie is also the son of former Cabinet Minister and Member of Parliament David Crombie, who of course was also Mayor of Toronto. My father served on council at the same time, and I first met Jonathan during a royal visit to Toronto with the children of all the city councillors looking out over the square as the councillors greeted the Queen. All of us, of course, except for one. Jonathan was at play in the outer offices drawing some of the most appalling and mischievous pictures I've ever seen, each one funnier than the last. Each picture was pinned on the wall of an unsuspecting staff member when they returned from the square. The Queen may have been visiting, but Jonathan took center stage. His talent, charm, and wit made him a successful actor, and those are the characteristics that his family now misses, as Jonathan passed away in New York City this month. And while his acting lives on with TV and film appearances, through the gift of life, Jonathan also now lives on in the lives of others. To his family, our condolences, and for his gifts to us all, we're truly thankful and remember him well.
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize 4 of my constituents who were presented with prestigious awards at the 2015 Estevan Bruins Sportsman Dinner on April 16, 2015. The Sportsman Dinner is an annual fundraiser organized by the Estevan Bruins hockey team and is the largest fundraiser for the team. Anthony Maley, a championship golfer, and Oriole Bill, an accomplished water polo player, received the Boston Pizza Estevan and District Male and Female Athlete of the Year awards. Jace Carlisle took home the Kim Anderson Award for the top junior official, while Chad Chapman received the Estevan Kinsman Club Volunteer Coach of the Year Award for his coaching in female hockey. As Member of Parliament for Souris Moose Mountain, I'd like to congratulate all award recipients, as well as the volunteers, the many who came together to make this great event happen. Congratulations.
The Honourable Member for Honoré-Mercier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Saturday, April 18th, I had an opportunity to celebrate the Cambodian New Year in Tamikaran Pagoda in Rivière-des-Prairies. And there I had an opportunity to meet with the two gentlemen who gave me a detailed account of how their lives were spared by two magnificent sisters who brought them to Canada when they were orphaned during the years when Cambodia and Vietnam were at war. These heroes are Eloise and Anne Charret, who, aged 20 and 22 at the time, risked their lives to save 55 babies and children. Now, that heroic act took place 40 years ago, and we must all pay tribute to these women on behalf of the Cambodian and Vietnamese communities and on behalf of all people who believe in humanitarian assistance as a selfless act at the risk of one's own life. Thank you, Eloise and Anne Charret, for your heroism and your love. Today, these children are your children as well. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians know, our Conservative government recently announced expansion and enhancements to the very popular universal child care benefit. This benefit used to apply only to children under 6 and provided $100 per month per child. Now, Canadian families with children under 6 will receive $160 per month per child, and Canadian families with children between ages of 6 and 17 will now receive $60 per month per child. This amounts to $1,920 per year for each child under 6 and $720 per year for each child between 6 and 17. However, there are 200,000 eligible families in Canada who have not applied, including in my city of Edmonton, 9,834 families representing 16,617 children. May 1st, 2015 is the deadline to apply for these benefits in order to begin receiving them in July 2015. Please visit esdc.gc.ca and click on the Enhanced Universal Child Care Benefit Apply Now feature to begin the application process. Mr. Speaker, this is how we're helping the best child care providers, mom and dad, raise their kids their way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, last week I was privileged to travel to Yerevan to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. While in Armenia, I had the opportunity to speak at the Global Forum Against the Crime of Genocide, attend the canonization ceremony of the victims of genocide, and place flowers at the memorial. Although a century has passed, the horror of the Armenian Genocide remains fresh in our minds, and we continue to give voice to those silenced by this tragedy. Many of today's Armenian Canadians trace their roots back to the survivors of the events of 1915, who, at the time of crisis, sought the opportunity to build a new life for themselves and for their families here in Canada. The Armenian Canadian community has made and continues to make a rich and vibrant contribution to Canada's multicultural society. As chair of the Canada-Armenia Parliamentary Friendship Group, and on behalf of all members of this House, we will continue to remember the events of 1915 and work together to safeguard human rights and dignity for all.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Mr.
Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
When the Finance Minister delivered his budget, his goal was never to provide fiscal accountability. Rather, it was to launch an election campaign that would buy votes with small, targeted tax breaks to the Conservative voting base, paid for with money from the rest of us. Fortunately, Canadians are not so easily duped. Economists immediately pointed out that Canadians with higher incomes are the big winners in this budget. Social justice activists noticed that poverty wasn't even mentioned. Neither was climate change. And once again, the EI Fund was raided to pay for Conservative election promises rather than helping laid-off workers. Others pointed out that this was a balanced budget built on sand, created with Finance Department pixie dust. It was one of the riskiest budgets in recent memory. Even the Finance Minister acknowledged that his spending was not sustainable, but he simply shrugged it off by saying he would leave that to the Prime Minister's granddaughter to solve. I was shocked. I don't want my granddaughter to be responsible for picking up the mess that the Conservatives are intentionally leaving behind. Stella deserves better, and Canadians deserve better. This October, they will get better by electing an NDP government.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to pay tribute to my constituent, veteran Art Boone, who stormed the beaches of Normandy with Allied forces on D-Day in 1944 and went on to help liberate the Netherlands from Nazi occupation. Art has been officially invited by the government of the Netherlands to attend commemorative ceremonies in Europe to mark the 70th anniversary of the liberation. Art wants to accept this honor and have his son Rick, a teacher, with him at his side as he receives a hero's welcome in the Netherlands. But the Avon-Maitland District School Board is refusing to allow Rick Boone unpaid leave to attend. This is a travesty. Our government strongly condemns this decision and calls on the Avon-Maitland District School Board to allow Rick Boone to travel with his father to be honored. This is about respect for veterans and their families, and our Conservative government stands firmly behind the Boone family.
The Honourable Member for La Salle-Mar. Mr. Speaker, last Friday I attended the Eco-Citizenship and Biodiversity Conference organized by the Southwest Eco-Quartier. In attendance were the Friends of Parc Grignon and the Friends of Parc Saint-Paul. After that, I visited a photo exhibit put on by the Friends of Parc des Rapides in conjunction with Héritage Laurentien at the Usine Sim de la Salle School. On Saturdays, some 20 volunteers braved the cold to participate in my spring cleanup activity, where we gathered up 8 metric cubes of waste. It was in conjunction with Eco-Quartier de l'Arrondissement du Sud-Ouest. All of these initiatives show that the people of La Salle-Mar are, like me, concerned about protecting the environment and keeping Canada green.
The Honourable Member for Langley.
Regarding crime violence, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be part of a Conservative government that's taking strong action to keep British Columbians safe. We passed tough new laws to clean up our streets and put criminal gang members behind the bars where they belong. We passed over 30 new tough measures on crime, including new prison sentences for drive-by shootings. Shockingly, the Liberals and the NDP voted against these common sense measures. We've also made significant investments in the RCMP to ensure that there are enough frontline police officers in our communities. Contrast this with the previous Liberal government, who actually closed down the RCMP training depot because they didn't want to pay for the new recruits. That's absolutely disgraceful. Mr. Speaker, people in my riding know it's only this Conservative government led by this Prime Minister that can be trusted to keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are shocked and saddened by the magnitude of devastation from the earthquake that hit Nepal and surrounding areas. Early reports indicated that the death toll is very high and survivors continue to be trapped in the rubble. I'm pleased to see Canada has sent DART, our specialized military disaster assistance response team, to Nepal, along with sorely needed supplies. I note British Columbia has also sent emergency responder teams to the area. Thank you. I ask the government to commit to provide rebuilding assistance once the search and rescue mission has concluded. It is at times like this that all Canadians can see the benefit of our armed forces having the ability and capacity to respond in a timely fashion and come to the aid of those who need it the most. I believe I speak for all Canadians as we extend our deepest sympathy to those who have lost someone in this tragedy, and we offer our hope that Canada's contribution to this relief effort will result in saving many lives. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Lotbinière, Chutes-de-la-Chaudière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with a great deal of emotion that I rise to pay tribute to Senator the Honourable Pierre-Claude Nolan and to offer my condolences to his loved ones and all those who had the privilege of working alongside him or being his friend. The Canadian Federation has lost a man of great wisdom with a reading and understanding of life that enabled him to hold one of the most prestigious positions, Speaker of the Senate. The Honourable Pierre-Claude Nolan was a man of integrity and exemplary standing. His courage and his convictions won many a person over. For me personally, his qualities as an exceptional man are a reflection of what all parliamentarians hope to leave as a legacy to our great country. I'm thinking, among other things, of his unwavering courage, his honesty, and his authenticity. The contribution of Pierre-Claude Nolan cannot be summed up in a minute. I offer my condolences to his wife Camille, his children, Simon, Louis, and Virginie, as well as to his family and loved ones. We will honor his memory, and we will long remember him. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals tabled a motion to denounce the Conservatives' partisan advertising paid out of Liberal funds. The Liberals are saying, and I quote, "This is an affront to taxpayers who work hard and expect the government, that the government will treat their money with respect." End of quote. Wow. I must be dreaming here. The Liberals, who are trying to lecture the Conservatives about partisan advertising and are claiming to defend taxpayers, that's like putting Colonel Sanders in charge of the chicken coop. Have they already forgotten about the sponsorship scandal? Have they already forgotten about all that partisan spending at the expense of taxpayers? And they're trying to, I think, in fact, they could teach the Conservatives a few tricks in this regard. Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Fortunately, Canadians and Quebecers are no fools. Next October, by voting NDP, they will finally see and obtain different results.
Our government makes no apologies for ensuring middle-class Canadians are aware of the measures that put more money back into their pockets.
That's
For
right.
example, we want Canadians to know about the new family tax cut and enhanced universal child care benefit, which will benefit 100% of families with kids. The vast majority of these benefits going to low and middle-income families. But the Liberals and the NDP do not want Canadians to know about these benefits.
Shame.
Why? Because they want high taxes on middle-class families, high taxes on middle-class seniors, and high taxes on middle-class consumers. That's their plan for the middle class. In contrast, our government's plan is all about reducing taxes for the middle class and for all Canadians.
Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable député de Laurier.
The honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, our thoughts and prayers are with all of the families who were affected by the earthquake in Nepal over the weekend. Whereas the international community is mobilizing to provide humanitarian assistance, Canada has a very important role to play. Is the government ready to match the amounts donated by all Canadians to the various organizations on the ground, as they have done in the past?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, our thoughts and prayers are with those affected by the disaster that occurred. But I was pleased, Mr. Speaker, to announce today that there will be a matching fund. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, we've been stepping up very, very fast in this situation with an initial $5 million in humanitarian aid. And then today I'm announcing officially that there will be a matching fund. So Canadians should be proud of that. They are generous and they will be able to participate with the government to make sure that we help Nepalese to recover, to be ready to recover.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, as the death toll this weekend's devastating earthquake in Nepal continues to rise, our hearts go out to all of those affected. Can the government give us a further update on the relief that Canada has offered so far and on the assistance that's being provided to Canadians who are caught in this disaster?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I just mentioned, we had first of all an initial response with $5 million announced last weekend in the humanitarian aid. And then this contribution, of course, will help to provide safe drinking water and food to those in need and provide medical supplies and shelter. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, I just announced that now we established a matching fund. After that, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to monitor and to take actions necessary to assist in this crisis. And we will deploy soon, Mr. Speaker, the emergency stockpile from our storage facility. So we are monitoring the situation to make sure that the supply.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, in his last budget, the Minister of Finance decided to hand the bill for regressive measures to our grandchildren. He's not attacking the biggest economic, social, and ecological debt. The Conservative government is leaving it to future generations. Why did the minister table a budget that is clearly to the benefit of the wealthy, rather than putting forward measures that would help families of the middle class? Honourable Minister of Labour. Mr. Speaker, the NDP think that people gaining less than $60,000 a year are too wealthy, because almost 2/3 of the people who maxed out their TFSA accounts earn less than $60,000 a year. We are going to allow them to save even more without having to pay taxes on the interest. The NDP want to increase taxes on these people, and we are not going to allow them to do so.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians will be paying for Conservative handouts to the wealthy for generations to come. And adding insult to injury, Conservatives are actually going to spend $13.5 million of our money for ads on their bad idea. Today, the PBO confirmed that Conservatives will give billions to the wealthy while leaving middle-class Canadians falling further and further behind. These latest Conservative handouts will cost tens of billions of dollars this year. And get this, the doubling of the TFSA will give the wealthiest 20% twice as much as all other Canadians combined. With so many families struggling to find affordable childcare and looking for work, why are the Conservatives so fixated on helping out the wealthy?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP thinks that people who earn less than $60,000 a year are wealthy, and that is what they're suggesting. The people who will benefit from the increased contribution limit of the tax-free savings accounts are those who've already maxed it out. 2/3 of them earn less than $60,000 a year. Maybe they had a small inheritance from a deceased family member. Maybe they are required to take the money out of their RSP or RIF and therefore looking for a place to shelter it from the hands of government. Mr. Speaker, the only way they'll be able to do that is by re-electing a Conservative government, because the NDP would tax that money away.
The Finance Minister has already admitted that our grandkids will pay for his handouts to the wealthy. The Conservative proposal to double the TFSA limit is a scheme that overwhelmingly rewards the wealthy. It's kind of like some perverse Robin Hood tax going on. According to the PBO, the wealthiest Canadians will get almost 10 times more than the entire middle class combined. That leaves middle class families working harder than ever to make ends meet, while having to pay for this latest Conservative handout. Why are Conservatives actually spending $13.5 million advertising handouts for the wealthy, yet refuse to invest even one single dollar in creating childcare spaces for everybody else?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, let me quote from the Finance Department of Canada. About 60% of the individuals contributing the maximum amount to their tax-free savings accounts had incomes of less than $60,000 a year in 2013, Mr. Speaker. That's on page 235. The NDP wants to raise taxes on people earning less than $60,000 a year, Mr. Speaker. That is exactly the wrong thing to do for our families. They want to take away the universal child care benefit and raise taxes on families, Mr. Speaker. We won't let them do that.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is telling Canadians to be frugal on the one hand while wasting $750 million on partisan ads on the other. They prefer spending hundreds of millions of dollars in self-promotion rather than helping the middle class, creating jobs, and growing the economy. Will the Prime Minister commit today to put an end to this waste and submit all of this advertising to a third party for verification before it is published? The Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, we are informing families about tax decreases and benefits that we're giving them. Let's start with taxes. We are implementing a tax cut for families that will allow couples to split their income up to $50,000 a year, and we're increasing the universal child care benefit up to $2,000 for every child under the age of 6, and also for children between 6 and 17. People need to know that these benefits exist. The Liberals want to take those benefits away and increase taxes.
Mr. Speaker, what the Liberals don't want is $29 million on 9,800 billboards. That's what they don't want. Neither do Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister cynically preaches restraint, yet he spent more than $750 million on ineffective and wasteful partisan advertising. He'd rather spend hundreds of millions of dollars on self-promoting advertising instead of helping the middle class, creating jobs and growth in our economy. Here's his opportunity. Will he commit today to ending this wasteful abuse of tax dollars and submit all advertising to a third-party review process for vetting ahead of their release?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, now that the Prime Minister has balanced the government's budget, he can help families balance their budgets. He's brought in the family tax cut, which will allow parents to split their income to save up to $2,000 a year. He's increasing the universal child care benefit to $2,000 for kids under 6 and $720 for kids 6 through 17. Unfortunately, there are 200,000 families who've not signed up for that enhanced universal child care benefit. They have until the deadline of Friday to sign up to get that July lump sum payment. The Liberals don't want those parents to get any of that money. In fact, the Liberals would take it all away, and that's why they're against us informing families that those benefits exist.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, on the weekend, the Finance Minister admitted that he has no idea how many jobs his budget will create. No idea. When challenged that the TFSA change will cost billions of dollars and create no new jobs, the Finance Minister says that this is a problem that the Prime Minister's granddaughter can worry about. Well, Canadians are worried about jobs right now. Where is the Minister's plan for jobs and growth for the middle class and those working so very hard to join it?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows that the strong leadership of this Conservative government has steered Canada out of the global economic recession and created 1.2 million net new jobs. The budget is full of new measures to create more new jobs, measures like reducing the small business tax rate, providing support to provinces to harmonize apprenticeship training, promoting Blue Seal certification, fostering training in response to employers' needs. Mr. Speaker, we know that the Liberals want high taxes on the middle class. We know that would kill jobs and set working families back. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know they're better off with this Conservative government.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, evidence in the trial of former Conservative Senator Mike Duffy has given rise to new questions about the Prime Minister's office and its involvement in unreported lobbying and communications between Mike Duffy and Enbridge executives. Mr. Speaker, why did the Prime Minister ask Mike Duffy to send him a note on, I quote, Enbridge Line 9 problems on February 17, 2012, and what was contained in the note Mr. Duffy sent to the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff and Enbridge executives on February 20th of that year?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, obviously I completely reject the premise of the question, and not going to comment on matters that are in front of the court, Mr. Speaker. But this member could help me and could help Canadians recover the $2.7 million that the NDP owe them for illegal offices, Mr. Speaker. That's $2.7 million that 68 members of the NDP caucus owe the Canadian taxpayers back. And I actually haven't even gotten into the $1.1 million they owe for illegal advertising as well, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps in a supplementary we can talk about that.
Order. Members need to come to order while other members have the floor. The
Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. We know now that former Senator Mike Duffy seems not to have been appointed only to make and amend legislation. His discussions with the Prime Minister's entourage and oil companies were also part of his duties. His diary refers directly to discussions with the Prime Minister about the Enbridge Company projects. Did the Prime Minister, or can the Prime Minister confirm that he had these conversations with Mike Duffy in April 2012? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reject the premise of the question. There's another very important question, Mr. Speaker. There are 68 members of the NDP who used this House's resources against the rules. And this particular member organized $25,000 worth of work against the rules of this House, and I hope that she's going to do the right thing and reimburse this $25,000 and more to taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, budgets are a question of choices, and the Conservatives have chosen not to help families save for their retirement, to not help the unemployed find jobs. The Minister of Finance himself does not even know how many jobs his budget will create. Why do the Conservatives not invest in measures that will create jobs for the middle class rather than favoring the wealthy? The Honourable Minister of Labour. Mr. Speaker, we have created jobs by decreasing taxes on small and medium-sized businesses. This will allow them to hire more people, while at the same time the program is training more than 500,000 apprentices. And all of these measures help to create jobs, particularly for our young people. The NDP want to increase taxes, including taxes on small and medium-sized businesses, to pay for the great cost of bureaucracy, and will prevent them from doing so.
Well, rather than skipping over the facts, Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister is sure his budget will leave an economic burden on future generations while rewarding the wealthiest with billions in new handouts. But he has no idea whether it will create any jobs. 1.3 million Canadians are looking for work. They were looking for some help to find a good job so they can support their family and save for their retirement. But the Conservatives left them hanging. Why is giving billions to the wealthy a higher priority than creating good jobs for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, our program for jobs is tax cuts, training, and trade. On tax cuts, we're reducing the small business tax rate from 11 to 9%. That will free up more money for small business owners to hire people in their community. And on training, we have given out 500,000 apprenticeship grants that prepares the electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and others for the high-paying, in-demand jobs of the future. And free trade with Europe will create 80,000 net new jobs. The NDP opposes all three of those steps.
The Honourable Member for Parkdale High Park.
Well, the facts. The Finance Minister has no idea how many jobs his budget will create in Canada. But we do know that the Conservatives are helping to create jobs in Mexico. Export Development Canada announced it would loan Volkswagen $526 million without any guarantee of Canadian jobs. The Conservatives have failed the auto sector and have lost more than 400,000 good manufacturing jobs. How can they possibly justify investing in jobs in Mexico while 1.3 million Canadians are out of work?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Speaker, as a result of our government's actions since we were first elected, Canada has the strongest job creation record in the entire G7. Economic Action Plan 2015 will help create even more jobs, reducing the small business tax rate, ensuring training reflects labour market needs, investing in federal infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, we know that with all these measures, the NDP and the Liberal Party would only reverse the measures that would create jobs. They would increase tax rates. They would put a higher tax on the middle-class Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We won't let that happen.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois-Salaberry. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind people that the manufacturing sector has lost 400,000 jobs because of the Conservatives. Last fall, the Conservatives were saying that it was too expensive to help Ford create 1,000 jobs in Windsor. And yet they found $525 million to help Volkswagen create jobs in Mexico. Why does the Conservative budget have millions of dollars to move jobs to Mexico and nothing to create jobs for the middle class here in Canada? Minister.
From the truth. This agreement with VW will create jobs and opportunities for Canadian manufacturers
by providing them with access to supply chains of a large multinational company. Mr. Speaker, they're already doing lots of business in Canada, selling to domestic auto manufacturers. We want to open the world to our auto products manufacturers. On this side of the House, we believe in supporting our Canadian manufacturers, opening up opportunities all around the world for trade, for investment. That's what our government is getting done.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, last fall, 11,000 Canadians who had been turned down by the government for disability benefits were still waiting to be heard by the Social Security Tribunal. The Minister of Employment was boasting about having set up a top-caliber team to deal with the backlog by this summer. Since December, the so-called reinforcements have only dealt with some 428 applications. Why are the Conservatives struggling to help the wealthy while they're breaking promises that they have made to middle-class families? The Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, we put in place a plan to put officials to work to help deal with the waiting period for benefits. And now we are making progress. They're trying to deal with files before they even are before the tribunal. So we will continue to move this plan forward in order to provide quicker decisions to the people who need them.
Thousands of Canadians living with disabilities, some of them mentally ill, have been waiting years without income for a hearing at the Social Security Tribunal. The Conservatives promised to clean up the mess and to resolve these cases quickly. But now we learn that was just another broken Conservative promise. Only a fraction of them have received a settlement, while the rest are still waiting. These Canadians need help now. How much longer will the most vulnerable Canadians have to wait for Conservatives to clean up their mess?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, my predecessor put in place a plan to deal with this backlog. Officials within the Employment and Social Development Department are reviewing the cases that are in the waiting list in order to find settlements before them so that they don't even need to go before the tribunals. That will reduce the backlog, and we continue to be on track to have the backlog eliminated by the end of summer.
The Honourable Member for Newton North Bedford.
We're talking about people who are desperate, Mr. Speaker. They have serious health issues. Some of them are depressed and suicidal. These problems are made worse by the lack of income, and yet there has been nothing but delays and broken promises from that government. Vulnerable Canadians are being made to pay the price for Conservative incompetence. They deserve better. Will the Conservatives finally clean up the mess they made and give these Canadians a fair and speedy hearing?
Minister of Employment. Well, in fact, our hope, Mr. Speaker, is to resolve many of these cases before they even have to go to a hearing. And that is why doctors and other disability experts within my department are reviewing these cases and offering settlements to disabled people in order to resolve the matters and get rid of the backlog before the end of summer.
Honourable Member for Toronto Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Michael Kinsley defined a gaffe as the moment when a politician accidentally tells the truth. That's what happened when our usually invisible Minister of Finance said the high cost of doubling the TFSA limit will be a problem for the Prime Minister's granddaughter. His remark revealed this government's profoundly cynical and short-term approach to economic policy and its utter lack of a long-term vision for Canada. Why are the Conservatives building up billions of dollars of debt for all of our grandchildren with this $10,000 tax break for the already wealthy, and where is their plan for long-term growth and jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, maybe she could explain something about gas. She's the one who said, quote, amen to higher taxes. Her leader said that budgets balance themselves. The day of the budget, her leader said that he would raise taxes on small businesses the very same day as our Prime Minister was cutting them. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're more concerned with ensuring that taxpayers have money in their pockets. They're worried about whether government bureaucracies and politicians will have enough money 40 years from now, Mr. Speaker. We're cutting taxes today.
The honourable member for Toronto Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say we are worried about long-term solvency for the Government of Canada, and we're worried about jobs and growth now.
Yes.
According to Carleton University economist Jennifer Robson, the Conservative income splitting plan will, and I quote, only reach at most 12.9% of all Canadian households and a maximum of 1/3 of families with children.
Wow.
2/3 of families with children won't save even $1 from the so-called family tax cut. When will the Conservatives start giving help to those who need it rather than to those who don't?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative family tax cut and benefits will help 100% of families with kids. It'll allow income splitting for couples to save up to $2,000 a year, and it will increase the universal child care benefit to $2,000 a year for kids under 6 and $720 for kids 6 through 17. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are already admitting that they would raise taxes on millions of Canadian families and take away the universal child care benefit. We won't let them do that.
The honourable member for Trinity Spadina.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister says he has no idea how many jobs his budget will create. And that's understandable because most of the country has no idea why he's the Finance Minister. I'm wondering even if he is the Finance Minister. The reason he has no real job numbers is because the budget has no real numbers. For example, none of the so-called new infrastructure money will even arrive this year, which means no new bridges, no new water plants, no new transit, no new housing. None of it will get built thanks to this minister's inaction. Why won't the minister fight unemployment? Why won't he help vulnerable Canadians? Why won't he invest in cities?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, let me quote Mayor John Tory. A major step forward for Toronto and for the country. Good news for Toronto and good news for cities across Canada. The federal government committed to establish a dedicated fund to invest in public transportation. Very well done. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are turning their backs on yet another generation of Aboriginal kids with their latest budget. All children in Canada, wherever they live, deserve a quality education. But instead of being part of the solution, the Conservatives prefer to be part of the problem by blaming First Nation communities for their failure with Bill C-33. Why is the Prime Minister refusing to keep his word on investing $1.9 billion to make up for underfunding of Aboriginal education? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is of the view that First Nations students, like all other Canadians, deserve access to a high-quality educational system, and that is why, since 2006, the government has been investing more than $10 billion to support education, both at the primary and secondary level, for thousands of First Nations students living on reserves. And in the budget last week, once again, we invested $200 million more to improve the educational system, and we will continue along those lines.
Mr. Speaker, it's not just in First Nations education where Conservatives have dropped the ball. When it comes to health services, it's as if Indigenous peoples are actually living in a different country than Canada. Despite First Nations and Inuit having higher rates of chronic disease and infant mortality, this government has cut basic services and made them harder to access. And the Conservatives' latest budget offered next to nothing on Aboriginal health. Why has the Conservative government abandoned its responsibility towards Indigenous people's health care?
The Honourable Prime Minister for the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, our government's committed to the health and safety of all Canadians, including our Aboriginal communities. We provide over $2.5 billion towards programs and services with Aboriginal health. This includes 24/7 access to nursing services in 80 remote communities, home and community care, and $34.5 million to improve the quality of health services in Aboriginal communities. This is just a few of some very important measures that we are doing in terms of Aboriginal health.
Mr. Speaker, to add insult to injury, this minister would like First Nations to believe he's actually doing them a favor by cutting services. He is targeting the poorest of the poor in this country, Mr. Speaker, by cutting welfare rates for New Brunswick's First Nations. Does this minister really believe that the only reason keeping First Nations on welfare is their, quote, passiveness? Or perhaps it might have something to do with high employment rates in the region?
Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government believes that income assistance on First Nation communities all across Canada should be consistent with provincial rates, and we have been working with Atlantic First Nations on aligning income assistance program policies with the national policy. And as the honourable member very well knows, this is before the court, and I will not comment further.
The honourable member for Jameson.
It's just shameful, Mr. Speaker. But that kind of talk shouldn't surprise us anymore coming from the Conservatives. According to Chief George Guinish, the planned cuts would mean around $908 a month for a family of 4 to live on, which is well below the poverty line. But the minister would have us believe it's for their own good. Does the minister truly believe that the reason New Brunswick's First Nations are getting social assistance is because they're too passive? The Honourable Minister, the answer is the same in French as it was in English. Quite simply, we apply the national directive, which provides that social assistance rates for members of First Nations in the provinces have to be the same or comparable to those for the general population in the province in question. And this is before the courts, and I will not comment further.
For New Brunswick Southwest.
Canadians are ready to respond to the disastrous earthquake that struck Nepal in northern India this weekend. The loss of life and ensuing humanitarian crisis are unimaginable. I know that all members of this House will extend their deepest sympathies to all those affected. Canada is always at the forefront when it comes to aiding those in need. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs please update the House on the actions our government is taking to respond to this natural disaster?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all Canadians, I extend our deepest sympathies and heartfelt condolences to the people affected by the earthquake in Nepal and northern India. Canada is responding, as we always do. We have deployed the DART assessment team, a C-17 Globemasters bringing supplies and equipment to the region. And as you heard from my colleague, we've also announced $5 million in assistance and have deployed additional consular staff to assist Canadians. We'll continue to work with our international partners and stand ready to take all necessary action to help those in need.
The honourable member for Squamish.
Mr. Speaker, there's a new member of the growing coalition of Canadians telling Conservatives and Liberals not to pass Bill C-51. That's the high-tech business community. This is an absolutely critical sector of our economy, and now high-tech entrepreneurs and CEOs say this dangerously vague legislation will make it harder to attract and grow businesses like theirs in Canada. After so many concerns from so many people, how can the Minister of Public Safety still claim that passing Bill C-51 is a good idea?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the members seem to forget that Canada has been targeted by the international jihadi movement, Mr. Speaker, that on October the 20th, there was a terrorist attack in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, and there was a terrorist attack here, Mr. Speaker, on the 22nd. And the least Canadians are expecting from their politician, Mr. Speaker, is to take action, Mr. Speaker. And that's what this government is doing. That's what I'm so proud of being a Conservative member, Mr. Speaker, who is not only investing in our police force to keep the Canadians safe, but also giving them the tools, and Canadians can count on us to keep on doing so. Thank you.
The honourable member for Alfred Pellan. According to Christiane Boudreau, whose son died in Syria and who's now trying to prevent the radicalization of other young people, Bill C-51 will make matters worse. CEOs of high-tech companies also fear the disastrous consequences of C-51. C-51 undermines Canada's international reputation as an open and tolerant place to do business. So why is the minister forging ahead with a useless bill that nobody wants? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know the NDP have opposed everything our government has done to fight terrorism. They even opposed our strategy to prevent terrorism. Mr. Speaker, look what Aïl Raza said here, the president of a Muslim organization. He said the legislation is important to fight radicalization. We need tools to track terrorists who are traveling abroad, and that's what C-51 will do. I hope the NDP will finally open their eyes and support this bill. Now, a member for Laurier St. Marie. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canada's chairmanship of the Arctic Council won't be an unforgettable one. Won't be a memorable one, rather. It's a shame. Yet another missed opportunity for the Conservatives to show some leadership on the international stage and in the fight against climate change. For his part, the U.S. Secretary of State, who will be chairing for the next 2 years, wasted no time in stating his priority, fighting climate change. Will the minister actively back the U.S. agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under Canada's leadership, we held the first of its kind of a mental wellness symposium promoting, and we also promoted Aboriginal traditional knowledge, the traditional way of life. We created an action plan to prevent marine oil pollution prevention in the Arctic. We also developed a framework to fight and reduce climate pollutants like black carbon and methane. Under Canada's leadership, we also established the Arctic Economic Council, which is promoting business opportunities, trade, and investment in the North. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, Canada's out-of-step business agenda on the Arctic Council was an international embarrassment. The very moment the United States took over the Council chairmanship, the agenda shifted rightly back to the urgent issue of climate change. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said, "This is not a future challenge. This is happening right now." Why did this government waste a critical opportunity to work with the Arctic nations to address climate change for the whole 2 years of their chairmanship?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under Canada's chairmanship, we consulted with Northerners from Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut to establish the priorities under our chairmanship for 2 years. Clearly, that member does not understand how the Arctic Council functions. It is a consensus-based organization. We build consensus across the Arctic nations to build Canada's agenda. That member had 2 years to ask a question about the Arctic in this House and failed to do so.
The honourable member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, in reference to the environment, the Prime Minister used to say the government always said it wanted to see regulations on a continental basis. And yet, when President Obama announced the new American targets, the Prime Minister changed his tune, claiming Canada would announce its targets separately. Yes, but when? When pigs fly? Imagine, Mr. Speaker, in a 600-page budget, not a single word on climate change. Does the Prime Minister really want to saddle our grandchildren with all of our problems? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have always said that to effectively reduce greenhouse gas emissions, all major emitters must be on board. We have aligned regulations with the United States in several areas, and we are working closely in developing the clean energy. Canada has one of the cleanest electricity supplies with 80% of our energy coming from sources that emit no greenhouse gas emissions. The United States has only 30%. And at home, our government is reducing emissions while growing the economy without a job-killing carbon tax.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, for years the Prime Minister has maintained the fiction that Canada would be in lockstep with the U.S. GHG targets. When President Obama announced his country's latest goal, the Prime Minister bailed and said that Canada would announce its own targets. Apparently, these targets will be announced without a plan, without talking to the premiers, and without pricing carbon. Why embarrass Canada again at the G7 and the lead up to Paris with fictional and delusional targets? Why even bother with a pretense? Why humiliate Canada internationally once again?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, let me just read you a quote. The United States just took over chairmanship, and let me tell you what the U.S. Secretary Kerry had to say about our actions related to reducing pollutants like black carbon and methane and other initiatives. Mr. Kerry said Canada's thanked for our work and said that he would continue to work with Canada and the work that we started. He also said, I quote, "It has given us all as a strong platform on which to build on." That's a quote from the Secretary Kerry, who is now taking over the Arctic Council chairmanship from Canada.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac.
Be there to serve all Canadians. So why do we see Conservative Party candidates like Tim Laidler being promoted all over official government websites and social media feeds?
Seriously?
He's there for a photo op with a foreign dignitary. He's standing there with the Minister for an official policy announcement in Vancouver. He's even there with the Minister on the Veterans Affairs website. Why can't the Conservatives seem to understand that public resources are there to promote the public interest? Why is the Government of Canada promoting Conservative candidates?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that's kind of rich coming from a member opposite who 68 members of his own party illegally used the resources of this House, Mr. Speaker, to fund an illegal office, partisan NDP office, in Montreal, Mr. Speaker. 68 of those members. That doesn't even include the 23 other members who actually illegally used resources to fund advertising in the middle of a by-election campaign for another $1 million, Mr. Speaker. Between the NDP and the Liberals, some $45 million of taxpayers' money is outstanding, and it'd be nice if they paid it back.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac.
Les ministres conservateurs semblent
Conservative ministers are apparently using publicly funded events to raise the profile of Conservative candidates. A Conservative candidate in BC was at the airport for the Indian Prime Minister's arrival. The Defence Minister even played photographer. The same candidate attended official events with the Minister of Social Development and the Minister of Veterans Affairs. Why is the government using public funds to promote Conservative candidates? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to see the NDP making a personal attack against a Canadian veteran.
That is sad.
Tim Laidler, Mr. Speaker, is still the president. Attacking a Canadian citizen, he's still the president of the Veterans Transition Network. He's been recognized across this country for his work with veterans, Mr. Speaker. He reaches out and supports Canadians who have been veterans, who are impacted by PTSD. He's won awards from all people in the province of British Columbia for his great work. He continues to work with veterans, Mr. Speaker. And of course, New Democrats take every opportunity to take a pot shot at this individual, but he is a great Canadian doing great things for Canadian veterans.
Order. The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Last week, the Finance Minister delivered our government's plan for trade, training and tax cuts. While the opposition is focused on raising taxes, the Conservative government is focused on giving more money back to hard-working Canadian families. I don't want a single Canadian family to miss out on these cuts and benefits. Would the Minister of State for Social Development please update this House and all Canadians on the important deadline that's coming up for Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of State.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member from Kitchener Centre for that excellent question. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians with children will benefit from our expanded universal childcare benefit, but about 200,000 families in Canada need to register, and there's a deadline coming up, Mr. Speaker, that's this Friday. If Canadians are wondering if they're going to receive that benefit, they can go to canada.ca/tax savings, or they can talk to a Conservative member of Parliament, because Conservatives want to help Canadians get their benefits. So 200,000 of them need to register by this coming Friday. Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Member for Malpeque.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians believe and expect when Parliament passes legislation or motions, the government will see to it that such laws are implemented. One such motion carried by a strong majority in this place was put forward by the member of Wascana, calling for a national public safety officer compensation benefit for first responders. Why has the government failed first responders by not providing funding in the budget for the public safety compensation benefit as duly passed by this House with a strong majority?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our government has just invested $200 million in helping communities deal with disasters. We'll continue to work with the provinces, and we do that while respecting provincial jurisdiction, unlike the centralizing vision of the Liberal Party. And we will continue along those lines. We will support frontline responders and affected communities.
Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, the Duchess of Kent Legion is an important part of my community for cadets, wounded and homeless warriors, for seniors, for veterans. But it has faced tough times, and earlier this month, the members sold the building. The Legion is proposing that the officers' mess at Wolseley Barracks, which is slated for demolition, be sold to the Duchess so it can be converted to a new home for the Legion. Will the Minister of National Defence consider the Legion's proposal so it can continue to provide support and services for veterans in London?
Great idea. Good question.
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Take the member's intervention under advisement. Of course, the Canadian Armed Forces only maintains those facilities that serve a valuable purpose. I understand this facility is over 60 years old and is not providing value for money for the Canadian Armed Forces, but I will review the matter.
The Honourable Member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, it's deeply disturbing that the City of Vancouver is looking to legitimize the illegal marijuana drug trade. This irresponsible scheme to sell marijuana in stores, just like alcohol and cigarettes, can have only one effect: increasing marijuana use and addiction. It's exactly the plan the Liberal leader has been peddling for months. Can the Minister of Labour, a practicing physician, please update the House on our government's approach that will actually discourage kids from smoking marijuana?
Honourable Minister of Labour.
Well, I want to thank the member from West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country for his great work on this subject. And as a practicing pediatric surgeon, I say with confidence that marijuana is an illegal drug for a reason. It has serious and lasting health effects, particularly on children, including schizophrenia and psychosis. Our government does not support making access to illegal drugs easier, and the Minister of Health has made this clear to the Mayor of Vancouver. Unlike the Liberal leader who wants to make smoking marijuana a normal, everyday activity and have marijuana available in stores like alcohol and cigarettes, this Conservative government wants to stop children from smoking marijuana. Storefronts selling marijuana are illegal. Under our government, they'll remain illegal, and we expect...
The Honourable Member for Bas-Richelieu, Nicolette Bécancourt. Mr. Speaker, the EI program is no longer meeting the needs of Quebecers and is adversely affecting all regions of Quebec. The latest federal budget does nothing for regional development and nothing to improve the job situation. The federal government would rather take $8.2 billion from the EI fund over 2 years to pay for the increased TFSA contribution limit and income splitting instead of improving the living conditions of the unemployed. Is that the federal government's new social policy? Steal from the rich, steal from the poor to give to the rich? The Honourable Minister. That's false, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member is not aware of the facts. In fact, during the recession, we had to subsidize the EI fund. Now the fund is repaying taxpayers for that. We are going to reduce premiums by 21% in 2017, and that will put more money in the pockets of small business so they can hire more people and pay working employees. The Honourable Member for Métis Matane Matapédia. When Ottawa claims the National Energy Board examining Energy East pipeline is a neutral third party, there's reason for skepticism. The NEB refuses to have documents translated into French, and counsel for the board said in court oil and gas pipelines are generally beneficial to all Canadians. Energy East is no exception. People were already worried enough about the effects of a pipeline. Now they have to worry about the NEB's bias in its evaluation of the project. Will the government stop the charade and amend the act to prevent the NEB from being a puppet of the oil patch? The Honourable Minister. The NEB has fulfilled its obligations under the Official Languages Act. All documentation produced by the board have to be produced in both languages, and any other questions should be directed to the promoter of the project, the proponent.
Mr. Speaker, Thursday is tax filing day. While April 30th is always painful for Canadians who owe taxes, with more than 120 different federal tax credits, filing has become so complicated, experts believe that filers are missing out on hundreds of dollars owing to them. Moreover, the Fraser Institute states that Canadians are spending $6 billion in tax compliance costs. Rather than forcing Canadians to either hire accountants and tax lawyers or spend hours themselves searching for tax credits, why not simply reduce the tax rates for all Canadians? Does the government not believe that a simplified tax code and broad-based tax relief is preferable to make-work projects for tax lawyers and accountants?
And the Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the member knows that our Conservative government has numerous steps to simplify the tax system, but no more importantly, we have reduced taxes for the middle class. Shamefully, the opposition has voted against all those measures. Our low-tax plan is putting $6,600 back into the pockets of the average family of four, but we know that the opposition wants to reduce that. They want high taxes on the middle class, high taxes on middle-class families, high taxes on middle-class seniors, high taxes on middle-class consumers. Mr. Speaker, we're the government that will keep taxes low. Canadians know they're better off with this Conservative.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton St. Albert.
Mr. Speaker, I congratulate the government on finally balancing a budget after 7 unsuccessful attempts. However, Budget 2015 still contains questionable industrial subsidies such as the $100 million allocation to the Automotive Supplier Innovation Program. When will this government learn that industrial subsidies, special treatment for some industries but not others, picking winners and losers, and corporate welfare does not constitute true Conservative fiscal policy?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course our government wants to have a robust industrial policy that will create jobs all across the country, Mr. Speaker. And of course, we are working with provinces. We're working with the private sector to keep taxes low. We have a 13-point lower corporate tax rate than what's offered in the United States. And we have a number of policies to keep us competitive and keep us moving forward. And with regard to our support for the automotive sector, I sure like the member from Edmonton St. Albert when he voted for these things, but now he's speaking against them in the Parliament of Canada. It just shows how far he's fallen from reasonable public policy.
That concludes question period for today. I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of His Excellency Ditmir Bushati, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Albania. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of Mr. Sadakuzu Tanigaki, President of the Japan-Canada Diet Friendship League. And I have the honour to inform the House that Mr. Julian, member for the electoral district of Burnaby, New Westminster, has been appointed member of the Board of Internal Economy in place of Ms. Trammell, member for the electoral district of Hull-Elmer, for the purposes and under the provisions of Section 50 of the Parliament of Canada Act. Tabling of documents, dépôt de documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Order 36.8. I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response to 6 petitions.
Introduction of government bills. Déclaration de ministres.
Statements by ministers.
Reports from committees. Introduction of private members' bills. Mr. Kotler, seconded by Mr. McKay, Scarborough-Guildwood, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Canadian Human Rights Act, Hate Speech. This motion is deemed adopted. The Honourable Member for Mount Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to introduce a bill that would restore anti-hate speech provisions of the Canadian Human Rights Act along with appropriate safeguards. In 2012, the Conservatives responded to valid concerns about Section 13 hate speech provisions of the Human Rights Act by essentially throwing out the baby with the proverbial bathwater and repealing the section outright. I was one of many who argued at the time that the section should be refined, not repealed, so as to result in hate speech provisions such as those I am proposing today. For example, this bill would institute protections against frivolous suits and abusive process, such as requiring the consent of the Attorney General for a complaint to go forward and allowing also for the awarding of costs. Freedom of expression is the lifeblood of democracy, and the bill expressly protects it. However, as Justice Rothstein wrote in the Supreme Court's unanimous 2013 decision regarding laws against hate speech, and I quote, "The objective for which the limit is imposed, namely tackling causes of discriminatory activity to reduce the harmful effects and social costs of discrimination, is pressing and substantial." Mr. Speaker, hate speech is not simply a matter of offending sensibilities or being politically correct, which is protected speech. It causes real and tangible harm, can assault the very values underlying free speech, can breach our international commitments, and can assault the principle of equality. I thus invite all members to support this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.